Bitcoiners, traders, followers, supporters, haters. Yes, you too. Bitcoin naysayers. Let's talk. Let's talk. Let's talk about my favorite topic, Bitcoin today. But I'd like to talk about Bitcoin today in light of something that I think permeates our lives almost every day, and increasingly so. I want to talk about Bitcoin through the eyes of inflation, which is a very hot and heavy topic as of late, and probably will continue to be so uh, for the next decade or so. At least that's my take. So let's talk about Bitcoin. Let's talk about inflation, and let's talk about anything else you want to talk about that's Bitcoin related, guys. Please don't be shy. Ask your questions. I can now see your responses. So by all means, guys, don't be shy. Ask anything your heart desires, especially as it relates to Bitcoin. I do want to remind you that this is not a system, or I don't really run podcasts where I pass the mic or anything. And I don't even think I'm able to do that when I'm doing live video. So that won't happen, but you can still have your voice heard by simply typing in the chat box. All right. Everyone can see it. I can see it as well. The other thing I want to keep you aware of is the fact that each and every talk that I have, even the video based ones like this one, the audio ones, of course, they all wind up on my Bitcoin podcast entitled Bitcoin Unleashed. Okay. Bitcoin Unleashed. Go find that, guys, on your, it's basically on all of your popular podcasting platforms. Pick the poison of your choice. Go follow that if you find anything that I have today to say of interest. And I guess that's it. Hope you guys are working hard and stacking harder. I wanted to talk about inflation because I did actually post something about inflation today. And my post highlighted the fact that based on the consumer price index put out by the Federal Reserve, the CPI for short, inflation is running at 4.4%. And the post insinuated that that was a lie because there is nothing, practically nothing in our lives that has only gone up 4.4% from the year before. And the post highlighted the pi index. So there are these individual things that are fun to track because they're used or consumed by so many human beings. And these things that are fun to track, their prices, happen to be a far more accurate gauge of what the inflation rate really is. And so pies have gone up on average about a little shy of 13%. And I believe that is basically what we are experiencing. We are experiencing close to a 13% debasement in our wealth, in our very lives, in the value of our time. And what I hope to do here today in talking about this is to really get all of us on the same page in terms of what inflation is, because believe it or not, most people, in my opinion, they have an erroneous view of what inflation is. Many believe that inflation is necessary, and it's only just connected to companies raising prices. And we're going to get to the bottom of this in my talk here today, and hopefully we can get all of us on the same page as to what the true definition of inflation is. Because when you understand what inflation is, you instantly began to understand the value proposition of Bitcoin and how it has actually come to be the opposite of inflation. All right. So it's very difficult to really wrap your hands around how special Bitcoin is without understanding the inflation problem. So that is what I'm going to attempt to do here today. All right. Ask your questions, guys, if you like. That is absolutely correct. Inflation is theft, and I'm going to explain why. The first thing I just want to point out to you, and this is something I want you to listen to me carefully about, please. Okay? Prices do not rise. Impossible. Did you hear me? People, did you hear me? Did you read the words that come from my mouth? Right? Prices do not rise. Impossible. Prices, in fact, fall or collapse towards zero forever. It is an impossibility for prices to rise. It is unnatural. It is against the laws of the universe. Prices don't rise over time. They never have, and they never do. They only fall towards zero. They constantly go down in price. Now, we've seen this in our lives, all right? In some ways, we've seen the cost of things practically go to zero. As a modern example, we've seen, for instance, how technology like the iPhone collapsed 40 plus things, if not all the way to zero, very close to zero. 40 plus things, the cost disappeared because of one item, the iPhone. 40 things that used to have a cost are now zero or close to zero. This is a modern example that prices tend to trend toward zero. They don't go up naturally. So let's just talk about a couple things. A few things that the iPhone basically collapsed to almost zero. Landline phones. All right. When's the last time you bought one of those? Pay phones that used to cost to put them up on street corners. Zero cost today. Calculators. When's the last time you bought an actual physical calculator? Zero. DVDs, DVD players, flashlights. We use our phones as flashlights today, as cameras, CDs, boom boxes. Remember those? The boom boxes? What else, guys? What else? Alarm clocks. Come on, help me out. Alarm clocks. Most people don't buy alarm clocks today. In many respects, books, magazines, newspapers, phone calls. I'm in Latin America. No one uses the phone for phone calls. They use WhatsApp or what have you, but phone calls are done. Overrated. Practically zero. Maps. Anybody buy a map? A GPS device? Zero. Watches, clocks, guys, business cards, trips to the bank. My point is that because the human experience is nothing more than a journey of technological advancement, all right? This journey, this evolution of ours, this technological walk to more and more advanced states collapse the prices of all things over time. It's just the way things are. It's the law. Prices don't rise ever. They don't ever rise. They collapse towards zero. So this begs, here's another example. I'll give you another example just before I go to the next point. The first flat screen, I remember this. The first flat screen sold for $15,000. $15,000. I remember it like it was yesterday because I wanted one. After doing a tremendous amount of research and this and that, I finally bit the bullet in 1997. I bought, what was it? A Philips Fujitsu, Philips Fujitsu flat plasma TV. Guess how much it cost me? $22,900. I bragged about it. I remember it like it was yesterday. $22,900, my flat screen. You know what flat screens are today? You can get a flat screen as low as $30, and the average flat screen today is under $500. $22,900 to $30 on the low side, average price under $500 today. Prices don't go up, they go down in value. So this begs the question, well, why do I experience some prices going up if all prices go down? And the answer is that the savings in things that actually go down in price is being stolen. We're not getting it. We used to get it in everything. Today, it's taken from us. So instead of the saving due to technological advancements and becoming more efficient and faster delivery and, less employer cost and so forth and so on, the savings that's supposed to be passed on is actually stolen, and some, because if only the drop in cost was stolen, prices would stay the same. But because of greed, not only is the price difference between the price and the lower price, right? The lower and lower price over time. If just the lower price was stolen, we would experience the same price all the time, while the lower and lower price, the difference would be stolen, but at least our price would be stable. Oh, no. The greed takes all of the price drop savings, steals that, and steals more to cause prices to go up. Let me give you a little bit of math behind this. It's estimated that technological improvements, advancements, increases in efficiency each year decline prices by about 7%, 6 to 7%. So every single year, cost to be a human being, cost to live on this planet, cost to sustain oneself should be 7% less every year, which means that our life should get 7% easier every year until we die. But instead, that 7% savings that we're supposed to experience is taken from us by someone else. We'll get to that. So the 7% every year is taken, but we also experience on average real inflation rate around 7%. So not only is the bottom 7%, the savings part taken from us, it's an extra 7% that causes prices to go up on average 7%. So it's a 14% theft. I hope you understand that math. I'll quickly summarize it again. Technological advancements and increases in inefficiency should cause the price of everything on planet Earth to drop on average by 6 to 7%. Let's pick 7%, which means that our life should cost less, 7% less every single year. So every single year we can say, wow, at least I got a break. 7% easier this year to buy the same freaking groceries, 7% less to live my life, 7% less I have to work to get the same thing I got last year. Life should get easier for me by 7% every year until I die, but it's not, because that 7% is taken from us. It is not allowed to pass to us. In addition to that 7% being taken, an extra 7% is taken because of greed, which is really a total 14%, because on average, we experience about a 7% annual increase in almost everything on planet Earth, which basically means that your life gets harder by 7% every single year until the day you die. And in some years more. Inflation is false. It is a man-made phenomenon. It's done on purpose. It is a method by which the masses are stolen from little by little. So little, in fact, that it's not noticed until a few years stack up. Now, this inflation is actually just to make sure that the masses don't revolt as their life gets harder and harder every year. And they wonder why. They wonder why. I don't understand. They're not sophisticated in many cases to understand the underlying workings of why their life gets harder. They know it gets harder. They know things are not easier, but they can't figure out why. Why is it? I did everything I was supposed to do. I went to school. I got good grades. I got a college degree. I got a job that now I need a second one on the weekend, and I can barely pay the rent. I don't even own a home. I make X number of dollars. I got to work at McDonald's on the weekend to pay my freaking rent. The rents go up on me 4 to 6% a year. I'm not getting ahead. I can't find any freaking breathing room. And this is the experience of people, increasingly so, every single year of their life until they die. It is a financial form of slavery, that you work for me in my system 7% more every single year to get the same thing. The same cucumbers, the same freaking cereal, the same eggs, the same milk, the same loaf of bread is going to cost you 7% more, which means that you'll have to work 7% longer, 7% harder every single year until you die. And you will not be able to keep up with this. You will fall behind. This is the freaking trap. And it's taught in schools, this inflation. It's this fancy word they give to this form of theft, right? They give it a fancy word. Oh, it's inflation. And then they teach it in schools as a necessary thing under Keynesian economics, which is bullshit. You understand? So they teach it, well, this is what they teach in school. If we don't have rising prices, we will not have a growing economy. So we need prices to rise to encourage people to spend. Bullshit. So the theory goes like this, which is just so much BS. The theory goes that if we allowed prices to fall, think of the gall of this. If we allowed the people to save money, if we allowed them to save, the money you freaking work for, if we allow them to save their money, the money they work for, if we allow prices to fall and gave them a savings, they wouldn't spend as much because they would hold on to their money and wait for next year's lower price. And this would delay consumer spending. You freaking thieves. That is nothing more than mental acrobatics to explain away outright theft and outright financial slavery. My smartphone has gone up in cost in a way. It's actually gone down in cost, which we touched upon, but the actual dollar price has gone up every single new version. It didn't stop me. I am vehemently against this idea that rising prices for human beings have any value whatsoever. Because rising prices are a theft of your time. I'll give you a quick story. Some of you have heard this story before. I became friendly with a professor in a business professor in Venezuela. He told me a few years, this is years ago, but he told me, he said, Oliver, in order for me to, in this particular year, he gave me the year, it would take me 3 hours of work. I have a salary, 3 hours of my salary. I had to work 3 hours to buy a steak, dinner, a glass of wine, red wine. He says, it used to cost me 3 hours of my pay. And it was something I enjoyed, but I had it calculated down, 3 hours of my pay for this steak dinner and a glass of wine. He said, Oliver, today, it takes me 3.5 weeks to buy the same steak dinner and the same glass of wine. So the higher price requires more time to obtain it, which is a theft of your life. Why? Because time is the stuff that your life is made up of. Every hike in price is theft of your very being, your very existence. Your existence is made up of limited time. So if you have to work an extra hour for something, your time was stolen. If your parents needed to work a year and a half, if your parents needed to work a year and a half to 3 years to buy the average home in the last generation, 3.5 years to buy the average home, and you now have to it takes you 8.5 years to buy the average home. 8.5 years of your pay buys the average home. That's time stolen from the human race. That is time stolen from human beings. The house is the same. The house gives me shelter. The house has got walls, it's got some bathrooms, it has some roof, it has a floor. The utility is the same for a house, but the time it takes for me to obtain it has been stolen from me. And what do we call a slave? A slave is someone who does not have does not get. A slave is 100% of their time is owned by someone else. That is a slave. A slave is when someone else has 100% of your time and 100% of the fruits of the labor of your time. And so, what is it then if I can control your time through prices? I'll just double the price, and now they have to double the time they work for me. That's an indirect form of slavery. And I'm going to create a system where you are more of a slave by 7% every year. So you'll have to work for me and my system. You'll have to contribute to me and my system 7% longer every year, 7% harder. You'll have to give me 7% more of your time, and you'll never get ahead. This is crazy. When you understand inflation for what it is and not just this generic term that I heard that in school one time. I heard that in school one time. When you understand it, it should make you get fired up. This is playing with people's lives. And it's taught that it's the companies doing it. Guys, this is crazy. The Federal Reserve, right? Federal Reserve Bank in the United States was formed in 1913. And at that time, a loaf of bread cost 6 cents. Actually 5.6 cents. Yes, there used to be prices in fractions of a penny. But let's round it to 6 cents. You can look this up if you like. A loaf of bread on average cost 6 cents in 1913. Today, you can buy a loaf of bread as high as $6. 6 cents, $6. Now I ask you, is it somehow dramatically harder to make a loaf of bread today? Like, my God, it keeps getting harder to make a loaf of bread since 1913. Does it take like a bigger army to make a loaf of bread today that you have to pay? Has it become less efficient to make a loaf of bread? Are the processes more complicated? No. Efficiency has gone through the roof. Delivery of all the materials, the cost has collapsed. The technology has gone through the roof. We can make a loaf of bread faster, more efficiency, at almost practically zero cost today. Why the hell is it $6? Does it freaking now include the cure to cancer or something like that? This is theft of your time. So instead of it costing you 6 cents worth of your time, it's going to cost you $6 worth of your time. That's more time to acquire $6 to get a loaf of bread today. Our time has been stolen from us, which makes us a slave. Whenever time is taken from you, that's slave. That's slavery. And that's how you should be looking at rising prices. My time is being stolen. The camouflage is the company's raising the price. That's the trick. That's the camouflage. No, my time is being stolen. It used to cost me 2 hours of work to get that. Now it costs me 6 hours of work to get that. My time was stolen from me. That's how serious this shit is. Are you picking up what I'm laying down? So What causes this? What causes the appearance that prices go up? Because they don't. They go down, remember? But what creates this illusion that the prices go up? Well, I explained to you that it's theft. But how is the theft? How is that theft pulled off? How is it instituted? How is the theft done? How am I being pickpocketed without me knowing? It's very simple. Print more dollars. That's the trick. That's the camouflage. Do you understand? You print more dollars. Printing more dollars steals the value from the price drop. The more supply, the higher the prices must go. But here's the thing. That printing out of thin air, that instant value must come from us, and it's taken by someone else. So this is where it gets a little convoluted for some people. They don't understand how do prices go up if they just print money? Well, there's more money available to chase the same amount of goods. Now, but what I want you to focus on is how printing just like this with a button press, someone gets that instant value, but the value must come from us. Let me try to give you an example of this. I've used this example before. I used to collect baseball cards as a kid. My father was a minor league baseball player, actually, for the Dodgers. Crazy, right? Ruined his career, got into a car accident. His dream never happened, but pretty much meant I grew up in a baseball dominated home, right? Anyway, I collected baseball cards. And Topps was a very, I think they're still obviously very popular, very big card. Now, let's use this baseball card analogy. I had some cards that had kind of had a fairly decent value, all right? And I eventually sold my collection. But let's take the baseball card scenario. Let's assume that there are only 4 existing rare baseball cards of a very popular baseball player. Let's just say Babe Ruth, okay? This is just a hypothetical. There's 4 in existence, only 4, and each of the 4 cards are valued at $25,000 a piece, a single card. This makes all 4 worth $100,000, the lot. Now, Topps, the company, hypothetical scenario, Topps, the company, has vowed that these are the only 4 in existence. It's the only 4 they printed, and the value for each one of these investors, 4 investors have the $25,000 a piece. Now, Topps one day, after promising never to do this, they decide we're going to come up with one more commemorative Babe Ruth card. Boom. Now there's 5. Now, it cost all of these people work and time to get $25,000 to buy these. Cost them work, time, sacrifice, right? And with that work, time, sacrifice, they bought 25, 25, 25, 25, right? But Topps just prints another one. Now there's 5. Now, this one instantly becomes available on the market. And the eager investors that actually wanted one of these, but they weren't able to get them, one investor immediately takes that one for 25. But what happens is that as soon as that happens, the value of all of them drop by what? The value of all of these drop by 5, 10, 15, 20, and 25. But Tops got the 25 really fast before that information seeped through the market, and the eager buyer gets the card for 25. As the world starts to understand that there's not 4 anymore, there's 5 now, the value of all of them dropped by 5 to maintain the value of 100. So this new card robbed $5, $5, $5, and $5. It robbed all the existing card holders of value. Now, what did they spend for the 25? Time, effort, work, sacrifice. That a portion of that was just taken away by printing one extra card. Every single time one new dollar pops into existence, someone gets the value of that right away, but that $1 now goes into the pocket of every person who has dollars and takes a little portion to make up for its brand new existence. The value has to come from somewhere, and it comes from every existing holder of dollars, just like the value of the card came from all the existing card holders. Every time new dollars come into existence, everyone who has dollars in savings account, under their mattress, in their jeans pocket, in investments, whatever, wherever you have dollars, they go down. Now, let me show you something here. Let me show you this. This is crazy. It's crazy when you truly understand this, right? So I want to show you something here. Let me see if I can find it. Do I have it? Give me a second. Let's see here. Yeah, here it is. Good, 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 good. Boom. All right. Take a look at this. Last week, while most of you slept, 2 a.m. in the morning Eastern Time, 2 a.m., when most Americans were slept, were asleep, or on their way to sleep, they approved 1.2 trillion new dollars out of thin air. Tops just created another card, this one worth $1.2 trillion. Now, this $1.2 trillion gets distributed to people very close, and they get the value of this brand new 1.2 trillion. Remember the card analogy, right? Remember the card analogy where the eager investor, Tops gets the value because Tops creates it, sells it right away, gets the value of it. Someone close to this event gets the value of the 1.2 trillion, but the value must be taken from all existing dollar holders. Any dollars I have just went down in purchasing power, lost value. Your dollars, if you have them under your bed, under your mattress, in a savings account, if you have dollar denominated assets, anything that dollars that's based on US dollars went down in value to make up for this extra $1.2 trillion overnight. Now, here's the thing. Check this out. So we are no longer at, guys, 34.56. You jumped with one pen signing a paper, we went from 34.56 trillion to 37.7 trillion, or what have you. You know what I'm saying. So we're above 30, 30. We're at, what is that? 2, 1, 2. That's just freaking insane. Almost 36 trillion. This is now at a rate, guys, that is so exponential. The theft is so, just has zero regard now. It used to be more gradual. It used to be more quiet. But it's now like someone just said, fuck it. These freaking idiots don't know anything. Why are we doing it this slow? And the greed is starting to take over. And this thing is going freaking parabolic. Look at that red line. That's parabolic. This chart hasn't been updated yet. So the white line is going to go straight up to almost 37 trillion, almost 36 trillion. That is freaking insane. Now, where does Bitcoin come in? Well, Bitcoin has been designed to be the opposite of inflation. So what's the opposite of inflation? Deflation. Bitcoin's very design is to be the opposite of your fiat currency. I want you to grasp this. I want you to understand this. If every time you print a new unit, a new dollar, a new Argentinian peso, a new Japanese yen, a new euro, anytime you print new, and they're printing in the trillions now, but anytime you print one extra one, the value of the fiat goes down. We explain that. Because Bitcoin's the mirror opposite, the value of Bitcoin goes up. Every single time they print a new dollar, dollars go down, Bitcoin goes up. Every time they print $1 trillion, dollars go down, Bitcoin goes up. Every single time they debase you, your currency goes down, Bitcoin goes up. It's literally the opposite. And this is why Bitcoin has no top. Bitcoin has no top because fiat currency has no bottom. To say that your currency has a bottom is to say that at one day, every single country, every single Federal Reserve Bank, every single politician, every single one on planet Earth at the same time will agree, no more printing of our currency. We're going to now be, we're going to practice austerity. We're going to be responsible. We're going to have zero debt. We're going to have balanced budgets. We're not printing ever again. Some people say, Oliver, what keeps you up at night? About Bitcoin? Nothing. What the next thing people ask me, Oliver, what is the threat to Bitcoin? What could kill Bitcoin? What could make its value proposition disappear? Only one thing, what I explained. Every country in the world stops debasing their citizens. Every country in the world stops printing their currency. Every country in the world stops creating fiat currency out of thin air. Good luck with that. It'll never happen. It's never happened in history, and it will never happen. And so Bitcoin has no top. It is guaranteed to continue to rise in value over time because it is guaranteed that fiat currencies are going to be printed. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's literally the opposite. Let me show you something. Let's take a look at this. Give you something to smoke on here. Yeah. Let's do this. I'm going to show you something really cool. All right, yeah, we can do that. Okay, let's do this. Check this out. I'll get better at this. Okay. There you go. Yeah, all right. Okay, what you're looking at, guys, you're looking at Bitcoin's entire life, right? This is 2009, all right, all the way to now, all right, 2024. That is Bitcoin's entire life. Now, look at it. Look at it carefully. All right, now, I'm going to show you the dollar priced in Bitcoin. Okay, let me show you the dollar priced in Bitcoin. Do you see the opposite? Do you see what I'm saying? If the dollar's value will only go down forever because printing will only go on forever, Bitcoin, which is the mirror opposite's value, will go up forever. Yes, forever. Until there are no more fiat currencies. And then Bitcoin becomes the global standard. But as long as there's one fiat currency in the world printing, Bitcoin will rise against that fiat currency. Mathematically certain, mathematically guaranteed. Your certainty is in the greed of human beings. Bitcoin was designed to make the greed benefit us every single time, people. Every single time they debase you, your value in Bitcoin goes up. Every time they lie to you, your value in Bitcoin goes up. Every time they defraud you, your value in Bitcoin goes up. Every time they do wrong by you, every time they try to hurt you, your value goes up. Bitcoin is the opposite of everything that's wrong. And we can be pretty guaranteed that what is wrong will continue. When you understand Bitcoin from this angle, you see the near guarantee in it. Well, shoot, the only thing that could really kill it is that everybody stops printing their money. That's never going to happen. This is the freaking surest thing we've ever had. Don't fuck it up. This is the surest bet we've ever had. Guys, I've been in the financial arena for 43 freaking years, and I'm here to tell you, I've never come across an asymmetric bet like this. I've never come across where the risk to the downside is so infinitesimally small. You might as well say it's zero. What's the risk? all governments, all politicians become 100% responsible, practice austerity, and never print another extra, not even another dollar again, ever. That's the risk. That's it. Dude, that's zero. Do you understand what I'm saying? That's freaking zero, people. Again, just look at it. That's the US dollar. So what does this picture really tell you guys? It's the US dollar priced in satoshis, priced in Bitcoin, right? So it tells you that if you are holding US dollars instead of Bitcoin, this is what you're experiencing. Your life, you are losing your life. You are losing your value. Your time is being stolen. Look at your life. This is the picture of your life as a non-believer in Bitcoin. That's your life. Now, does that look promising to you? Where is your life going? Because you give up your life for what? What do you wake up with every single day of your life? And what do you think about the vast majority of time? What do you spend most of your life doing? Acquiring dollars. That is your life. That is what dominates your life. Now, your life, from the moment you wake up until the time you put your head on the pillow at night, you are thinking about dollars. I know this. You've gone to school to get educated for what? To make more dollars. You've tried to get more skill to do what? To make more dollars. You try to become more valuable to do what? To make more dollars. You are driven by the dollar. And some of you are in other countries, you're driven by that currency as well. All right? I know the majority of people here are Americans, so I'm using the dollar as the base. Your life is dominated by getting dollars. Now, look at your life. Look at it. Look at it. That is what you're giving your life for, and that is what you're experiencing when you don't have Bitcoin. But you can turn this dismal picture around if you just flip that weak shit into Bitcoin. Instead of holding it and letting it melt on you like this, you take a portion of it, a healthy portion of it, and switch it, convert it, transmute it into something more superior. And your experience will go from this to freaking, let me get it, this. Now, look at your life. Look at your life becoming more valuable. Look at your time being given back to you. Some of you may be fortunate enough to have one Bitcoin. Most people in the world will never have one Bitcoin. Some of you have achieved that huge milestone of having one. This one Bitcoin used to buy nothing. You understand? Then it used to buy a Snickers bar. Then this one Bitcoin used to buy a night out at the movies. Then a suit. Then I don't know. What's $10,000? A vacation in Europe for 2 weeks. then a small car, now a medium-sized car, a Tesla, what are we, 65,000? In the next few months, I believe Bitcoin is above 100,000. What will one buy then? My point is, at some point, this one will buy a home, the average home in the United States. At one point, it'll buy any freaking mansion that's ever been built in the United States. Then it will not stop. Do you understand that it will not stop? I hope you understand by now. It won't stop. This one Bitcoin won't stop eating the world. Do you know why? It'll then be one mansion. Any mansion that has ever been built can be bought by one Bitcoin. Then it'll be any block in America, an entire block. This one Bitcoin will not stop. Why? Because fiat currencies will not stop being printed. Because inflation is here to stay, and Bitcoin's the opposite of inflation. So they jack that shit up 7%, Bitcoin rises. They steal from us, Bitcoin rises. And this is why it's freedom. This is why I'm constantly I constantly refer to Bitcoin as freedom, because it's freeing you from this time trap, this slavery of I gotta work 7% harder every single year just to break even. You know, just to break even. I gotta be 7% more. I gotta give 7% more just to break even from last year. Bitcoin, that's a slave. That's just all right, this year I'm gonna whip your ass harder to get 7% more out of you. And then the next year I'm gonna whip harder and whip harder. And you just become a whipped slave your whole life. Bitcoin frees you from that slavery and gets you your time back. Because how many years would you have to work to get a $63,000 car? At some point, that $63,000 car is going to be a half a Bitcoin, then a quarter of a Bitcoin, then a tenth of a Bitcoin. It gets you your time back. It makes you wealthier. It makes you more valuable. Mathematically, every 4 years of your life, you are wealthier, you are richer, you are freer, you are more independent. And this will go on forever. It's going up forever, Laura. All right. Yeah, man. I love my shades. It's all the lights, guys. There's a lot of lights here. Believe it or not, it's pretty dark in here without the lights. But I get migraines if I stare into these lights, guys. I can't do it. I'm sorry. I try sometimes, but I can't. All right, guys. It's wild though, right? It's wild. So, this idea, right, guys, that prices go up is false. That value is just stolen. Now, I'll give you a story with my mom. My mom, in 1970, I think it was 71, my mom bought her first home in 1971. And it's a crazy story behind this, guys, because my mother used the first purchase of a home she used that experience to teach me. So I was a little boy and 5 years old, whatever, right? But when she surprised me when we got this new home, right? So I went to stay with my grandmother in the South, in Virginia. And my mother wanted to get the house ready, the new purchase and the house ready, get the closing done, whatever. She went down to Virginia, got me, drove all the way back up. And this was New Jersey at the time. New Jersey, yes. And when we drove up, my mother says, "This is your house now." I'm like, "My house?" Anyway, she uses this experience. I'm excited. I'm looking at the backyard. She uses this experience to tell me how she bought it. And she says, "I bought this house by taking two things out of my daily routine: a Coca-Cola and a Snickers bar." My mother loved Snickers bars. I loved them too, I guess because my mom loved them. But so she said, for 5 years, I stopped drinking a Coca-Cola and a Snickers bar, and I saved the amount necessary to put the down payment on the home. Anyway, that's the financial lesson my mom used to teach me the power of savings, which was stolen from us, right? Now it's stupid to save, unless you're saving in Bitcoin. Bitcoin brought savings back to us. But the theft wasn't so great back then where it was possible to save. Now it is impossible to save. Your money is a melting ice cube saving. I digress a little bit. But anyway, so my mom puts a $3,000 down payment on this home. It's $30,000, 30, 35, something like that. Anyway, to make a long story short, the home is ultimately sold many years later for $800,000. $30,000 home, $800,000. Now, during this period, the neighborhood had degraded. The school systems got worse. It was not the neighborhood that it used to be. My mother didn't do any significant work on the home. It was the same home. There was no building on it, adding an extra room or anything like that. It was used. Now, a used home, right? Used by my mother, all of those years, used by us all of those years, all right? No upgrades. Declining neighborhood, declining safety, the security, the whole thing. School system's not as great. Sells for $800,000. What is that? My mother, it took her 5 years just eliminating a Coke and a Snickers bar. How many years of pay is it going to take the average person to buy that $800,000 used, not as good home? Same home, actually worth less because it's used, has a freaking price like that. That's stolen time. That is theft because the money is being printed, creating the illusion that a $30,000 house is $800,000 now. So did the house's value really rise? No, one can argue that the value went down. I freaking used it. We used it. Do you know what the average lifespan of a physical structured house is? About 80 years. The house was built in 1927 or something like that. So the closer you get to 80 years, 100 years, the less valuable the house should be because the time you can live in it is shorter. But yet the dollar price goes up. That's not the house's value going up. Remember, prices go down. That price should go down because it's used and because it's closer to its death. It should go down, but theft makes it go up, made it go up to 800,000. So someone has to give more, exponentially more time. They have to give more of their life for that used up piece of property my mother bought in 1971. That's not the world we're supposed to be living in. Do you understand? That's not the way things are supposed to be. And Bitcoin has come to deliver something different, to free us from that. All it requires is that we have to be in the world, but we have to stop being of this freaking clown world. We have to live in the clown world, unfortunately, but we don't have to be of the clown world, right? How do we live in it and not be of it? You earn the clown's dollars. You make sure every single week of your life, you're going to take a portion of those clown dollars and you're going to convert it, transmute it, exchange it into the superior thing, Bitcoin, and just leave it there. Every single week, your goal should be to become Bitcoin richer, not dollar richer. That era is freaking over. Do you understand? The goal is to have more Satoshis this week than I had last week, to have more Satoshis next week than I have this week. And if you do that every week of your life, only put there what you don't need. Don't put there, say, I'm going to put it here, but I need it back next week or I need it back next month. No, that is dumb. Put what you don't need there and keep it there. And at a certain point, as you're doing that, making clown dollars, throwing a little bit in Bitcoin. Making clown dollars every week, throwing a little bit in Bitcoin. Throwing a little bit in Bitcoin, a little bit more in Bitcoin, a little bit more in Bitcoin. This thing, with some time, will reach what I call the freedom tipping point. And at a certain point, it's going to say, all right, enough of this freaking clown world. It's time to get out. And it's going to lift you completely out of that freaking clown world, that slave financial system you're in, and liberate you forever. And you will never have to give your time to another man for the rest of your life. And your children's children's children will remember your name. I am telling you, no other part of the human race living on planet Earth will ever have the opportunity that we have today. This is disappearing. Your window of opportunity is going away. How many people today on planet Earth can afford one Bitcoin? It's going away. How many people could afford it in 2009? It was zero, everybody. So you see it disappearing on you? At 1,000, fewer people. At 5,000, fewer people. At 10,000, fewer. At 25,000, fewer. We're at freaking 65,000, even fewer. It's disappearing on you. And some of you bozos are sitting out there like, well, I'm not sure yet, Oliver. I'm not sure yet. The government's gonna ban it, right? All right, guys, come on. We got to get to it, man. Enough of the nonsense. Some people some people say, Oliver, when you say that Bitcoin is disappearing, I don't believe that it's going to always be available. Yes, Bitcoin will always be accessible, but not the way it's accessible today. Getting chunks of this is still possible for you. But we're going to a world where there's only Bitcoin dust. Do you understand me? There's no chunks of it anymore. Only dust. Bitcoin dust. You know? Chunks, that's going away. No human beings born, do you understand me? No human beings born today and ever will ever have your opportunity. Never, never. Think about that. There's a new human being born virtually every few seconds. Do you understand? No human being born from today forevermore. There's going to be billions of new human beings, billions upon billions of new human beings that exist, and they will never have the opportunity you have today. And some of you are still freaking acting like this doesn't matter. Still, it's crazy to me. Bitcoin will force you to look in the mirror of truth. That's right. It is not too late, but it's disappearing. Your time is running out. Bitcoin salt bed. You will live in the land of Bitcoin dust. But you want chunks, guys. You know what? Think of Manhattan, right? The people that live in Manhattan at the dust level, they're renters. They rent little shoe boxes. Guys, I'm from New York. Right? They rent little shoe boxes for thousands upon thousands of dollars. $4,000 a month for a little freaking shoebox. Do you understand? You can roll out of bed and be in your bathroom. $4,000. But there was a time in the early settlement days where people got chunks of Manhattan, chunks of it. This is invaluable property today. Do you understand? Like hard to even put a price on it. That's how freaking valuable it is. And they got chunks of it. Blocks after blocks after blocks. Well, they were before blocks, but you understand what I'm saying. We're still at the chunky stage of Manhattan. We still can get chunks. But there will come a time where chunks just don't exist anymore. And it's Satoshis. Satoshis. I'm always saying this. There was a time I read all the back forums, guys. I wanted to understand what everyone was thinking, what they were feeling, I wanted to know everything that was expressed about Bitcoin. I tried to just go through every single line, every single statement, silly or not, from everyone who stumbled across Bitcoin. I read all the forums, man, over and over and over and over again. And I will tell you this, that back in those days, not a single person, except for price only, talked about the fact that I got one Bitcoin. Never. You know what the talk was back then? It was like, I don't know if it's worth it mining for 6,000 Bitcoin at a time. I'm not sure that's quite worth it. We're talking numbers like that. I'm up to about 60,000 Bitcoin. I'm not quite sure that's going to be enough for the future. They were talking numbers like that. Nobody was like, I got one Bitcoin. The unit was too little to talk about one. So people were talking about 60,000, 100,000, 15,000 Bitcoin, 6,000 Bitcoin. Those were the chunks talked about. Do you hear people talking about chunks like that here on Bitcoin Twitter? Anybody talk? Yeah, I'm not quite sure 16,000 Bitcoin is going to be enough. Anybody talking about chunks like that? No. You know what they're talking about? 0.20 Bitcoin. I got a half a Bitcoin. They're talking about pieces of one. Do you understand? That's where we are today. Pieces of one. When they used to talk about tens of thousands, chunky, less chunky. So where do you think we're going? We're going the same way that no one used to talk about one Bitcoin because the unit price was too small. What's no one talking about now? One Satoshi. No one would say, I got one Satoshi. You all would laugh. Because one Satoshi is 0.000655 of a penny. I'll repeat that, 0.000. You put 3 zeros after the point and then the price of Bitcoin, right? So it's 0.00. Oh, my camera went out, guys. Let's do it. Sorry about that. So what was I saying? So no one spoke about one Bitcoin, right? No one spoke about one Bitcoin. They used to talk about tens of thousands. Now, no one's talking about one Bitcoin because the value's too big and they're talking about fractions of a Bitcoin. Well, what's the unit lower that no one's talking about today? One Satoshi. The same way back in the old days, one would never say, I got one Bitcoin. You would laugh at the person. Come on, dude. But no one's saying, I got one Satoshi because today it's 0.000655 of a penny. So the way you come up with the value of one Satoshi is you put 3 zeros after the decimal and then whatever the price of one Bitcoin is. So it's 0.000655 of a penny. So nobody's going to brag about that. But the day is coming where you're going to be talking in one Bitcoin, one Satoshi. You don't have a lot of time. Our story is going to be told for hundreds of years. Can you imagine these people lived during the time where they could get chunks of this, and we now live in Satoshis? My God. Thank you. I appreciate that. All right, guys. Anyway, that's all I've got for you today. I just wanted to get the whole 1,700. I think this is an all-time record for me, guys. It's an all-time record for me. 1,700 people. Whoa, that's crazy. That's crazy. I appreciate you all being here, guys. I'm always telling you that the two most valuable things on earth are Bitcoin and your time. And in many respects, Bitcoin is time. So that's so fascinating to me. But time is your most valuable commodity because just like Bitcoin, it is finite. And just like Bitcoin, it is scarce and becomes scarcer over time. So over time, your time left becomes less, which means that your time becomes scarcer. And Bitcoin becomes scarcer as well as people lose Bitcoin, lose their keys, as some people pass with their keys. Dust, all right, based on UTXO, the cost of transacting on the Bitcoin base layer, and whatever amount of Bitcoin is less than that cost is what's called Bitcoin dust. It's gone forever, basically. So Bitcoin does become it's already scarce. It becomes more scarce through the loss of it. Your time becomes more scarce. Every single moment, every single minute, every single hour, every single day, week, year, you get it because you have that much less. You gave me the most precious thing you have today. That's crazy. You gave it to me. And I'm telling you that that is not something that I take lightly. So thank you so very much. You can never get what you gave me back. I hope I've given you something in exchange of value. All right. So, guys, I'll try to keep doing these regularly all the way up to Bitcoin 100,000. And I'm off. Never leaving Bitcoin, but I am leaving Bitcoin Twitter. I wish I set that price in my promise lower, but I'll stick to it. All right, guys, listen, enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Enjoy your weekend, and I'll see you in the next live. All right. Ciao for now. Boom. Boom.